Hello everyone, Nick here, welcome to this Aimless Wanderings vlog. Today, it's time to build up the army with War of the Doctors Part 3, which is the third and halfway episode of the 6-part adventure, War of the Doctors. So this episode is basically the Doctors, not Pompous, the other ones, building up their armies. Well, Pompous is as well, I suppose. It's basically just the Doctors finding armies, building their armies, having conversations with them in order to get them. Fruit Pastel gets the Blobotrons, Sorry gets the Autons and Nesting Consciousness, and Dynamite gets the Cybermen. Plus, the Mysterious Woman gets a couple of battle cruisers for the armies to fill up. But the Cybermen were only agreed to be part of the army if they could lead it. So they kind of caused a little bit of a commotion. So the Doctors have to deal with that. So that's a bit of a detour. And then they approach Pompous' vast army. Meanwhile, the Master, who was sent to get the Axons, was captured by Pompous. And Pompous Doctor actually wants him on the team now so that he can because he can make the other Doctors upset that the Master's joined them instead. And he's also got the Scientist, some maggots in a pond, and giant space pugs, courtesy of the Scientist, and a couple of Gallifreyan battle cruisers, plus all his Daleks. And yeah, this isn't as eventful as the other ones. It's basically army building, and then the Doctors having a bit of a standoff, and that's about it. The Cyberman stuff is basically the most interesting stuff besides the army gathering, and that's just a bit of a detour. It's just something. It's a bit of a detour. It's a bit of a time filler. Don't really think that it could have been needed. They could have got one more army each. I think they could have had another army for Pompous. They could have had another army for the other team. They could have got the Axons on Pompous' side after whilst the Master was there. Maybe the other side could have gone the Crotons as Pompous had suggested he got gotten, and then he'd get upset that they got them instead. Not just like the Cybermen. Or they could have gone to the Sontarans, but we won't see a Sontaran until later in the year. And this is actually the first time the Autons have actually appeared in Aimless Wanderings. And Axons, the first time an Axon's been referenced, besides Jeff. And Green Maggots, they're the first time they've been mentioned, and we don't really get to see much of them. But other than that, it's not. And also, the Mysterious Woman makes a welcome return after a noticeable absence in the last episode. Overall, it's still very interesting and very enjoyable. Still, but I think story-wise, I think this is a little bit of a dip in the story. I think it's not as interesting as the other bits after they've got the armies together, until they get to the standoff, and that's where it kind of comes to an end. Nice cliffhanger with Dynamite not being able to remember one thing, but doesn't really account to anything, as the next story doesn't really bring it up. As Dynamite says Pompous is forgetting one thing, and then he says he couldn't remember. Next episode, they're all writing their diaries or on their blogs, apart from Pompous. So, that goes nowhere. Overall, it's an enjoyable episode, but I think this is probably the weakest episode, or one of the weaker ones, definitely, in this story. So, weakest episode of the story, or one of the ones anyway. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's still really good, but it's just one of the weaker ones, I suppose. Also, Grudgeworthy makes a cameo. That's fun, and it's funny. So, that's it from Part 3. Next time we'll be looking at Part 4, which, fun fact, was released on the same night as Comic Relief 2015 was on the BBC. So, the night BBC One did Comic Relief was when episode 4 of this story came out, and it pretty much is a Comic Relief special, I suppose. Or Comic Relief episode. I wonder if they actually waited to do that. Waited about a month to release it. Just for that. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nick Payne Extra YouTube channel.